The planet is dying, but nobody cares. Climate change is real, but nobody cares. Temperatures are rising every single day, but still nobody cares. One of the things that I continuously find very interesting is this topic of climate change sustainability. It is definitely something that is always affecting our lives as human beings on Earth, but for some reason, a lot of people do not really care about it. Every single year, scientists are sounding their alarm that we are getting into the red zone, the point of no return, and still no one is actually caring about it. It really makes you wonder, do people not care about the planet? The problem has always been the messaging, how a lot of people who are speaking about the change in climate have been phrasing their messaging. One of the things they've been trying to do is to make people care about the planet dying. But you know, actually a lot of people do not care about the planet dying. You would actually be surprised. A lot of people are very selfish and people only care about themselves. If you want people to actually care about your cause or about the climate, you need to phrase it in a way that people will feel that it affects them. One of the fundamentals of advertising is always ensuring that whatever messaging you're putting out there has impact by carefully choosing every single thing that you're using to represent that message, whether it's a voice, whether it's a picture, whether it's a video, or whether it's words. When you look at some of the most impactful ads, most of the times they'll just have like 3 words, 5 words, maximum 10 words, and those 10 words are able to communicate something so profound. They're able to even push people to go by something. And this is essentially what should also be applied in the climate change messaging. Messaging has to be so impactful that it actually makes people make changes in their daily lives. And not just in their daily lives, it's also about how people can participate in dismantling systems that are contributing to the climate change, because at the end of the day, these systems have actually created the societies that we live in. And it's the way of life that we have cultivated, the cultures that we've cultivated, that are leading to all these problems that are causing climate change. And to create impactful messaging, one of the things that you need to understand is the psychology of the people you're trying to communicate to. The kind of messaging that we're always seeing from a lot of scientists is always like a blanket statement about, oh, the planet's dying, the temperatures are rising, but they're not really going in depth about how that is going to affect our day-to-day lives. And you're finding that a lot of people are not paying attention to that, because what do you mean the temperatures have risen by 2 degrees? That doesn't seem like a lot. It's really important to go down into the desires of people, their needs and their wants, and then you target them and you start telling them, if the climate is doing this, it means that you're not going to be able to achieve this, and suddenly people are paying attention. If we take the example of fast fashion, the fashion industry, and how much pollution it's causing, when you look at a lot of campaigns, they're always showing a lot of clothing in the landfills. And this has been happening for a very long time, and yet people still continue buying from these fast fashion brands. And you always find a lot of people have a lot of excuses. They'll tell you fast fashion brands are the only ones that have inclusive sizes. When you dig deep into all these excuses that a lot of people have, they're trying to tell you that they really do not care about the pollution that their fast fashion clothing is having on the environment. And so when you tell them that the clothes that they're buying are ending up in landfills in a lot of third world countries, they actually don't care, because it's not affecting them in any way. It would be more impactful to tell people that fast fashion clothing is actually destroying their bodies, because that is actually true. A lot of these clothes, because they are very cheap, they are made with plastics, the polyesters, they are made with toxic dyes, and when you wear these clothes, they're disrupting your hormones, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people, especially a lot of women, are having a lot of diseases. And this clothing made of plastic is one of the factors that are contributing to this. When you tell people that the clothes that you're wearing from fast fashion brands are actually putting them in danger of getting these dangerous diseases, then people will start paying attention, because now it is affecting their quality of life. Instead of telling people that the temperatures are going to increase by 2 degrees, it's more impactful to talk about some of the consequences, such as how food production will actually take a hit, because when temperatures go up and the weather is constantly changing, it means that farming is going to be highly impacted. And you know, we are all depending on food, and if farming is impacted, it means that we are all at a risk of facing famine and drought. And that's not something that people want to experience, because imagine getting to a point where farming has been so disrupted that food production is low, it means the prices of food are going to go up and food is going to become some sort of luxury. Can you imagine going through your days living on one meal a day? And of course, there are people who are like, oh, one meal a day, it's not a big deal. When you have children, it's a different story. Imagine having children who are hungry and they are crying the entire day. How are you going to be living your life? What a lot of scientists need to do is partner up with marketing agencies, with communication professionals, and create impactful campaigns that focus on how the daily lives of people are going to change. Give people a picture of the lives that they will be living if they don't do anything right now. It's always very easy to ignore something when you think that it's actually not going to affect you, or when you think that you can miraculously be the special one that is going to be spared. It's really important to get very specific about the impact on individual lives. If you look at one of the things that a lot of people really care about is having children, having grandchildren. Right now, some people are almost going into crisis mode because they hear that a lot of women do not want to have children. So this is also one of those areas that can be targeted. Show how the impact of climate change in our daily lives can actually affect a lot of people having children, whether it's their fertility. Where's the messaging about how all these toxins that we're always ingesting because of air pollution, because of the cars that we have, because of all these human activities? Where is the messaging about how they are actually impacting our lives? How does that affect pregnant mothers? How does that affect sperm quality? What are the dangers to the children that are going to be born in such environments? These are the things that should be highlighted, and people are going to start caring because they now have an understanding that this is something that can potentially harm them or even harm their own children. When it comes to this matter, one of the biggest challenges is actually combating fake news. There's so many people who don't believe that climate change is real. This is because a lot of people do not understand how this is going to impact them on a day-to-day basis. That's why they have the luxury of thinking that it's fake news, because they actually do not see those changes in their lives. I think a lot of activists need to focus on this. A lot of activists, climate activists, are always focusing on the companies that are polluting the environment. Again, a lot of people do not really care that much because at the end of the day, they're not seeing the daily impacts that the pollution that these companies are emitting into the atmosphere is having on their lives. So when you tell them that this company is releasing a certain percentage of CO2 into the atmosphere, what does that mean and why should I care? But when you start talking about how that CO2 which has been released into the atmosphere is now affecting someone's daily life, perhaps how they're breathing, perhaps they have a child who suddenly started having respiratory problems after the family moved to an area that coincidentally happens to be near one of the factories that is polluting the atmosphere, then people are going to start caring. But until that happens, it's always going to be radio silence, it's always going to be crickets, it's always going to be people just thinking, oh, you're exaggerating, it's fake news, climate change isn't real.